Hello and welcome to another video lesson with Mr. Roman. We're going to continue with our review of solving equations and applications of that. We're going to pick up where we left off on number 22, which says this. You just filled up your gas tank to go on a trip to St. Louis to see a Cardinals game. You know that your car will use up 0.03 gallons of gas for every mile that you drive. Letter A says, if your gas tank can hold 15 gallons of gas, write an equation for how many gallons of gas will be in your tank after you have driven for any number of miles. So here we're going to be using an equation here for how many miles are left in the tank. So we can say L equals how many gallons of gas will be left in the tank. And since we're starting with a full tank, which is 15 gallons of gas, we can subtract then any gas that we use on the trip. So we use up 0.03 miles, or I'm sorry, 0.03 gallons for every mile that we drive. So M represents the number of miles driven, L is the number of gallons of gas left in the tank. So this would be our equation. Then part B says, how many miles will you be able to travel on a full tank of gas? So here, full tank being 15 gallons, we would simply want to write 15 divided by 0.03, which is actually going to give us 500 miles. So part B, the answer would be 500 miles. That's how far we could travel on a full tank of gas. Part CS, use the equation you wrote to determine how many miles it would take for your car to have 11 gallons of gas left. So here we want to know how many miles we could travel before we get to 11 gallons in the tank. So 11 gallons is going to be our L value, and we're going to leave the number of miles open. In fact, we're going to solve this equation for M. So here we're going to subtract 15 from both sides, and you get negative 4 equals negative 0.03 M. Then we want to divide both sides by negative 0.03. And then we could say 4 divided by 0.03. 4 divided by 0.03 equals 33 miles, 33.3 miles. 4 divided by 0.03. Oh, I'm sorry, 133.3 miles. M equals 133.33. This is a repeating 3. So it would take us 133.3 miles to run off 4 gallons in our tank. And that's how long it would take for us to have 11 gallons left in the tank. And let's move to 23, number 23. So number 23 says, at a hunting club, members have to pay $65 for every deer that they shoot, plus a membership fee of $180. Non-members can shoot deer on the club's property, but they must pay $110 for every deer that they shoot. Part A says, write an equation for how much a member will pay to the hunting club based on the number of deer they shoot. So here we can say M will represent how much money a member of the club will pay. And since they have to pay a $180 membership fee, we have to calculate that in. Plus $65 for every deer that they shoot. So D represents the number of deer that they shoot at the club on their property. And then in part B it says, write the same equation for a non-member. So N is going to represent the amount of money that a non-member would pay, and they have to pay $110 for every deer that they shoot. So D is the number of deer that they shoot. Then in part C it says, use the equations you wrote to solve for how many deer it would take for a non-member and a member to have spent the same amount of money at the club. So really the amounts of money that the member spends and the non-member spends is going to be equal. So we could say in part C here that these are both going to be equal to the same variable. Let's say P for how much they pay. And since they're equal to the same letter, we can set the two quantities equal to each other. We can say this, where D here represents the number of deer that were shot at the club. And now we can solve for D. We can subtract the 65D from both sides, and we would get so here we get 45D equals 180. Now we can divide everything by 45. And D here is going to represent how many deer were actually shot at the club. And here we're going to say that there were 4 deer. Now what this number really means is that a member here can shoot 4 deer, and a non-member can also shoot 4 deer, and the amount that they pay to the club is going to be the same. So here, until you shoot 4 deer, it's really not worth it for you to be a member of the club. Once you pass 5 deer, or I'm sorry, once you pass 4 deer shooting at the club, then the membership becomes worth it, because then you pay a lower price after 4 deer. And this concludes our review of Solving Equations Part 2.